So he's not just got a rainbow above his head, but he's clothed in a cloud. And this cloud, as we see in other parts of Scripture, always interpreting Scripture with Scripture, and of course, through it in the Holy Fathers and Holy Tradition, is divine protection. We see in Exodus 13:21 to 14, 19 to 24, that there was a cloud in the desert, and that cloud was shade by day and night and light by night. And it led the people of Israel, the people of God, on their journey. And this cloud, as we know from patristic interpretation and the hymnography of the church, is the Son of God. The invisible Logos, the pre-incarnate Logos, he himself is the cloud. He was the one giving shade, giving light, and guiding the people. They saw a cloud, but it was Christ. Christ is the one who led them into the promised land. And we have this in the hymnography of Holy Week. Very interesting. And now this is just a paraphrase. So it's not the actual hymn, but it's a paraphrase of the hymn. My people, what have I done to you that you deny me? He's talking now to the Jews, the people he led through the wilderness. Did I not feed you in the desert with manna? I filled your thirst with water from the rock. I was in the form of the cloud, which gave you shadow and light and guided you. There it is, right there. Exactly. The church is saying through its hymnography. By the way, hymnography is one of the best places to acquire the dogmatic mindset outlook of the church in the hymnography. Unfortunately, for many of you in the English-speaking world, you don't understand, or you don't have access, or you don't take pains to have access to the hymnography. And many of us, and myself, are not diligent in poring over the hymnography of the church. But if we were, we would have such a rich source of the formation of the mind of Christ within us. And here's an example of that, right? This is from the patristic writings, of course. They're writing hymnography on the basis of the great teachers of the church, like St. Basil the Great and St. Gregory the Theologian, John Chrysostom, and Gregory of Nyssa, and all the great saints. And some of them are great dogmatic teachers themselves, like St. John of Damascus, who's writing a lot of the hymnography as well. So this is from the core of the mind of Christ in the church, telling us how to understand Scripture. This is the Son of God. And he says, my people, what have I done to you that you now deny me? I was the cloud. I guided you. I fed you in the wilderness and all the rest. So this is a cloud of divine protection. This is a cloud of divine protection. The cloud is a symbol of divine presence. The divine protection is the presence of God himself, his providence, his care, right? God is closer to you and I than we are to ourselves. Someone wrote me and felt despair. I forget what it was now. There's so many little messages coming these days through the social media or through the comments in YouTube. And they were in despair. They were this, that. I said, God is closer to you than you know. He's never abandoned you. He never will abandon you. The problem is we have given rights to the enemy. We have formed bad habits. And now we have to go through sometimes a long process of patient purification. And that's showing that if we do that, we show the love we have for Christ and our determination to be with him. And that's good for us because that overcomes the bad habits and the old man in us. And so far from seeing all these temptation, struggles, and problems as a reason for despair, we should see it as a reason for hope, a reason that God is working with us, right? Far, far from it. So never despair. God is there. And the cloud here is a sign of his divine protection for the Christians of the last times. The Lord said that when the angel appears with his cloud, it shows the divine presence is not absent. When the Lord said these melancholy words, the days are coming when you will desire to see one of the days of the Son of Man, and you will not see it, he says in Luke 17:22. He had in mind primarily the days, the very, very last days, right, that we're talking about here, when there will be much tribulation, and the faithful will cry out for the Lord to show them a sign of his presence. And there will be isolation. There will be isolation, not unlike that felt by the prophet Elias when he said, I'm alone. And that the Lord said, no, you're not alone. There's 6,000 sons of the prophets that have not bowed their knees to the demon, to Baal. And so Even the prophet thought he was alone. And there will be many, many Christians, and there probably are now, and maybe even some of you listening to me right now, feel that you are isolated, that you don't have someone, but do not feel that. Rather, the fact that you're here, even via the internet, shows that God's providence has worked mightily in your life to bring you to the church, or bring you to the catechumenate, or bring you to the feet of entering the church. It is God's care for each and every one of us that we have what we have. The little or much that we have been given is all of God, and that's his providence, that's his protection, that's the cloud here that we see that's overshadowing the people of God. It did in the people of old, and now the people in the end times. So there will be harsh and difficult days. And here now, this little pause in the plagues we have from this angel, this intermission, is a great sign of consolation, and will be in those days as well. There'll be great encouragement coming from heaven for the believers.